Okay, now the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak has directly accused North Korea of murdering the half-brother of leader Kim Jong Un. His comments are set to further escalate tensions between the two nations, with Pyongyang repeatedly denying any involvement at all in the murder of Kim Jong Nam at Kuala Lumpur Airport.
Professor John Blaxland from ANU's Strategic and Defence Studies Centre joins us from Canberra. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning, Del.
So how is this direct accusation from Malaysia going to further impact what already appears to be very rapidly deteriorating ties with North Korea?
Well, there's a couple of things to bear in mind here. Firstly, that this is actually probably good domestically for Prime Minister Najib. He's under a fair amount of pressure domestically over his hold of the United Malay Nationalist Organisation, the principal political party that he controls. And so he's burnishing his strong nationalist credentials by standing up to the North Korean actions. But it's also interesting to note that what's happened is that inside Malaysia itself, North Korea has had a pretty free hand in terms of front companies, and there's quite a number of views out there about North Korea's ability to operate with a fair amount of impunity inside Malaysia. So we're seeing essentially the chickens coming home to roost there for what's happened. But the confrontation with North Korea and the holding of effectively hostages inside North Korea, the 11 Malaysians inside North Korea, is been reciprocated by the Malaysians, and they've blocked their borders with Singapore and with Thailand. They're fairly porous borders, admittedly.
That's right. I mean, this has all escalated so quickly, and it's become almost a tit for tat. North Korea has banned Malaysian people from entering the country and vice versa. And this has all transpired so quickly because of that murder of Kim Jong Nam.
Exactly, and with nerve agents. And this is a pretty scary thing. We've seen North Korea flout conventions before, and admittedly not one that they've signed up to, about chemical warfare. But North Korea is operating in a way that is challenging the boundaries for all of its protagonists and supporters, including China. China has, for a long time, essentially had a pretty close relationship with North Korea. It's never really wanted unification of the Korean Peninsula on terms other than favourable to China. And of course, with the Republic of Korea, South Korea being so economically vibrant and dominant, the prospects of North Korea dominating a unified peninsula is really, it's fanciful. But what we are seeing is a real concern with these missiles, the 4 missiles that have been fired, and in the past, a number of nuclear detonations. We're seeing North Korea ratchet up its willingness and its commitment to challenge the United States and present quite a problem for China. China has blocked trade deals purportedly. There's some conjecture as to how much China is actually blocking the sale of coal, and whether this is smoke and mirrors to make it look favourable.
So, Professor, do you see China being as a potential solution to this? Could they get in the middle of this and potentially broker a deal? Could we see that leadership coming from the region?
Well, there's a couple of variables that it are dependent on. One is China wants a deal on the Terminal High Altitude Air Defence, or the THAAD, missile systems that are being installed in Korea at the moment by the Americans with the blessing of the Koreans. And this is largely in response to what North Korea's been doing in terms of firing additional missiles, improving its nuclear weapons capability. Let's not forget the capital of Korea, Republic of Korea, 28 million people in the greater metropolitan area, within artillery range of North Korean missile artillery. So this is something that is very scary for Korea, and it's very important for them to have a strong position. And of course, China is objecting to Korea's deployment of the THAADs because they're afraid that it impinges on their security because of the range of the THAADs. So we've got a conundrum here. It's not going to be easily solved.
And it's really interesting because while all of this is going on, of course, that diplomatic standoff between Malaysia and North Korea, overnight we saw South Korea, Japan and the US, all their diplomats really show solidarity at the UN. And they're saying, look, they're going to take a really tough stance against North Korea in light of them basically flexing this military muscle you're talking about.
Exactly, and this is very worrying for China because China has relied on its ability to influence, at least on the margins, the actions of Korea. And of course, what we're seeing now is that China is much more heavily invested in the welfare of the Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, than North Korea. Chinese trade with Korea is way larger than it is with North Korea. And so the importance to China of the Republic of Korea means that it's got to really be very careful about its relationship with North Korea as well. It's a very difficult balancing act for China to maintain. People say China is the country that can do something about it, but China is also afraid about North Korea turning rogue on China.
Yeah.
And that is a factor as well. So this is a very murky and complicated space we're talking about.
And it's certainly one that's going to continue to develop, because if it's not China, it's going to be the US, but someone has to show leadership in this area. Professor
Indeed.
Blackford, thank you so much for your time this morning.
My pleasure, Del.